to today's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where I thought we'd just take a look at some of the more challenging clues in today's puzzle, and just maybe work through them together. I'm not sure whether you're watching as somebody who's already tried the puzzle and finished it, or somebody who's not looked at the puzzle yet. So I'm going to try not to give any spoilers, but to outline how some of the more interesting puzzles or parts of it will work. We'll do 10 across last. I mean, this clue was an absolute beast, in my opinion. I think it's an extremely difficult word, clued with an extremely not unusual piece of wordplay, but the reference in the wordplay is not, I suspect, on the tip of everyone's tongue, and that combination together made this by far the hardest clue in this puzzle, perhaps the hardest clue for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I spent 3 or 4 minutes on this one clue alone. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Where should we start? Let's have a look at this one, 22 across. So please write instruction with space between lines. Now, you would be forgiven, I think, for struggling to work out where the definition was here, because please write doesn't seem to be a natural piece of definitional fodder. I don't know of any words that mean please write. Maybe please on its own could be the definition. And if we look at the other end of the clue, space between lines, well, this struck me as feeling more like wordplay, because the word between is often saying, well, okay, I need to find a word for space, and in crossword terms you always need to try and remember that an M and an N are printing spaces, and obviously they're very short synonyms, so that's all good fodder normally for wordplay. And lines, well, that can just be LL, or even it could be the line can be a railway line. So I certainly was looking at that, suspecting that was wordplay, but then it seems to be wordplay at both ends of the clue. And in fact, the definition here is with space between lines, and it's something that you might come across as I think it was an instruction in the army. If you said this, then the troops were meant to sort of space themselves out a bit more. And then the wordplay is very, very difficult to get a handle on, especially in this position. If you're faced with this grid here without any checking letters, then fair play to you if you got this from the definition. If you were to say please write to somebody, the contention of the setter is that you might say a O pen, as to sort of O being a sort of poetical way of saying please. Not easy. And then instruction is an order, so an O pen order is a please write instruction. I told you it was odd. And then open order, I think if something is in open order, then it has space between the lines, as I say, in a sort of army sense. So not an easy clue. I think I needed certainly 2 or 3 of the checking letters to get that one. Let's just take a quick look at this. This is an easier clue, but some people might have been surprised when they got it. So, quarry scene from front of yard in big house, 5-2. Well, I think this is slightly easier to pass in terms of what's required. We can see that front of yard here, that looks like it's hinting at a Y. In big house, so it sounds like we need to put a word or words for big house around the edge of a Y, and that's going to give us a word, I thought, for quarry. So I was thinking of some sort of fox or something like that. Actually, it's cleverer than that. The definition here is quarry scene, and if you were on a hunt and you might make a certain exclamation when the quarry was seen. And that, of course, is tally-ho. So tall, big, house, HO around the Y. So yeah, not too difficult again once you've got the checking letters, and they weren't too difficult to come by. 27 across should be looked at by, you know, sort of a good one to start the crossword with in a way, because it's pretty straightforward. But that's what was going on with that clue. Now we're going to take a look at a few of the downs before we get to the dreaded 10 across. Don't do what I did on one down and read the clue a few times and fill in drop as the second word. That won't help you. You could be forgiven for putting drop, which I did, having already solved the 2 across entries and had an R and a P here, but that still won't help you. Don't put drop. It's not right. Now, which one did I want to look at? This clue is nice. It's not a difficult clue, but it's extremely it's extremely evocative surface. So digging up patio, killers acting practically, not morally. I mean, it's a brilliant surface. It may be an unpleasant surface, but it's brilliant. And in fact, so digging up patio killer, we can all see patio killer has 11 letters there, so that looks like very good anagram fodder. Digging up's telling us that we need to make the anagram. And acting practically, not morally, is the definition. So have a think about that. Pause if you need to. Answer realpolitik. Like so. Let's take a look at 12 down as well. 12 down, I had to say I thought this was a real colour, not a fantastic colour. But maybe it is only an imaginary colour. The reason I wanted to talk about this though is the wordplay, which was quite difficult, and as with a number of the clues in this puzzle, seemed to reference cricket, and I wonder if that was why it's been selected for today, being the first day of the Ashes. So how does it work? Well, we need a short word that means send up. Cricket is very helpful if you think about sending up the ball. That might help you there. Then we need an abbreviation for book. Now here, unusually, it's not the standard B abbreviation that we often see. It's a 2-letter abbreviation for a book, for the word book, and then the words with original line up in are difficult, because what that's telling you to do is to anagram the letters line up and put those letters in the anagram or the abbreviation for book that we've thought of before. So, you know, I think that's very hard, because the word in coming after the anagram fodder there is means that it's by far not the natural reading to do what you need to do. But okay, pause if you need to. The word for send up to sky. The abbreviation we need here is BK for book, which is, I guess, it's a pretty unusual one. And then the anagram, well, I'm sure we can all do it now. Sky blue pink for the fantastic colour. So yeah, not easy wordplay there. This clue annoyed me, mainly because I read it, immediately understood the reference to apparently sleeping, but failed to solve it, because as with a few times we've talked about this over the past few weeks, there are some bits or abbreviations that are so common in crosswords that it's very hard to get your mind out of the, your mind becomes certain that you must need that abbreviation. And that's what happened to me with this clue. So Member of Parliament apparently sleeping, so dismissed. Well, Member of Parliament just has to be MP. That's what I'm thinking of there. I mean, if you asked me to stretch and think about what else might it be, I would be thinking, well, maybe it's a con, lab, lib, something like that, an abbreviation for one of the political parties. This actually is a brilliant misdirection. and then apparently sleeping. Well, I understood that if something's apparently sleeping in a sort of cryptic crossword sense, it struck me as they would, it's referring to someone being in bed. So what I wanted to do was to put my Member of Parliament in the word bed, so that, the Member of Parliament would be apparently sleeping. But of course, bed is 3 letters. Member of Parliament, my abbreviation is MP. I've got an O in there now as well, so it just looks like I'm totally wrong in terms of how I'm reading the clue. And it took me a few moments to sort this out. And again, Cricket will help you. We've talked about Sky already, but the reference here is to a cricket dismissal, and the Member of Parliament is referring to the collective noun for a group of owls, which is a parliament of owls. So I thought that was brilliant, really nice. As we just mentioned, 23 down. Again, when we're seeing things like putting in time for clubs, experienced solvers of the crossword will be immediately noticing that both time and clubs have very common abbreviations, and with being T and C, and therefore this instruction, putting in time for clubs, is very very suggestive that what one needs to do is kind of come up with a word that means sprints and replace the T, the C that you'll find in that word with a T. So time for clubs, that's immediately what I was thinking there. And then you can see, if you have this construction already in the grid, it's a writing. Evaluates, rates, and the way the wordplay works is it's races, with the C being replaced by the T. Right, so let's just spend the last minute or so talking about this clue. So, plant from port, not American, in South Africa. Well, fair play if you can solve it with only this one checking letter. In fact, fair play if you can solve it with all the checking letters, and I think that's what I'm going to give you here, because I think it indicates how hard this was. So we can see that in South Africa part, well, South Africa is very often abbreviated to SA, so let's put the SA around the edge. And then we need a name of a plant, it looks like, and we need the name of a port inside the SA, losing probably the abbreviation US for American. That's the most common. I think A can be an abbreviation of American as well, so we would need to consider that possibility. But probably US. This one was an I, wasn't it? So you're faced with this collection of letters. We've got to come up with a plant that fits. We've got to come up with a 7-letter, probably a 7-letter port that we can put in the middle of that, that contains the letters U and S, that we can then remove the letters US, stick the remainder in there, and it's all going to be a plant. So have a think about that. Pause the video if you need to. I'm going to put in the answer now. Ouch. Ouch. Look at that. Look at those letters at the end there, the AEA finish, and the reference of the port, the Piraeus being the port, which I think is somewhere in Greece. Might even be the port of Athens. I can't remember. But yeah, I'm sure most of us were not thinking of that port. Port when we see that in the wordplay of cryptic crosswords. I'm sure 99% of us are thinking Rio, and if we're not thinking Rio, we're thinking of a UK port. We're certainly not thinking of the port of Piraeus, and yeah, and obviously the plant there. Well, it's a word, as I say. It took me about 3.5 minutes to come up with that, with all the checking letters, and it is an absolutely brutal answer. Well done anybody who got that quickly. I'm not sure what that means, whether it means your botanical knowledge is better than mine, or your geographical knowledge is better than mine, or quite probably both. But yeah, as I say, a brute of a clue. And yeah, probably the most difficult one in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I hope this is helpful, and we'll see you again tomorrow on Cracking the Cryptic.